liberal democracy, the way we have it now, is not strong enough, efficient enough to cope with the problem we are confronting. Stop. My God, I want to be like Hitler. You saw the greatest movie of Chaplin, The Great Dictator or what? When they applaud and then Hitler says like this and they stop applauding. Give me at least this dignity.
Thank you very much, President.
Thank you.
For joining us once again into the Oxford Uni. I wanted to start by asking about one of your books on Christian atheism. You said in that book that the only way to be an atheist is through Christianity. So what do you think is so unique about Christianity that it gives it that quality that means that you have to be a Christian in order to be an atheist?
It's a little bit complex, but I'm very glad that we don't go just in these bullshit political jokes that you ask a serious question, because this is, of course, the crucial question. It's my pretty unorthodox reading of Christianity, but I think it's all there. Namely, for me to be truly an atheist, it's not enough just this, you know. Everything is nature, we don't need spiritual values and so on. No, it's that here again, back to quantum physics, I'm for Niels Bohr against Einstein. Because Einstein made that famous statement, God is raffineerd, subtle, but God doesn't cheat. And Niels Bohr gave a perfect answer. Don't tell God what to do. That is to say, Einstein, who was officially, is not an atheist, more a pantheist, like there is some rational, beautiful structure in nature. This is perfect example of what Jacques Lacan would have called the big other. If you look at it from a proper distance, universe is a beautiful totality and so on. For me, this is the core of, in that sense, theism, religion. This idea that, sorry for vulgar expression, even if we are here or in Sudan or Ukraine or where, in deep shit, nonetheless, if you look at the total picture, this is a beautiful, harmonious universe. I think that this argument, which usually assumes the form of a reference to a painting. You know, the idea is look at a big classical painting. If you look too close, you see just a stain, a dirty stain. If you withdraw, you see that what appeared to you as a stain really just contributed to the overall harmony. I think the whole point of Christ as embodiment of Christ as a living God, God as one of us, is that it's strictly prohibited to take this general view. As Hegel, whom I, of course, admire, Hegel, you know, the great materialist. I think Marx was much more idealist than Hegel. Hegel said that what dies on the cross is not a representative of God. Like God said, sent Christ, we screwed it up. Okay, God said, come back to me, son, maybe in 1,000 years we will try again. No, as Hegel put it, what dies on the cross is the God of beyond itself. Which is why, my God, read the Gospels. When Christ is asked, how we will know that you will return? His answer is, when there will be love between the two of you, I will be there. The name of this love is Holy Ghost. Holy Ghost is the solidarity, egalitarian solidarity. What do you mean by egalitarian? Another wonderful detail from the Bible, you remember, Christ is with his followers in a tent, and somebody comes, tells him, your mother and family are out there waiting for you, and he said, sorry, this is my family, here. Don't read this literally. The idea of Holy Ghost is that there is a possibility of a communal link of solidarity where old hierarchies are suspended. So this is one, and the other result, this is how I read this statement that of some Christians, that God gives us freedom. Not in this cheap sense, he gave us freedom of choice, that's why there is evil, but in a much deeper sense, he gave us freedom by erasing himself out of the picture. What remains is not, it's totally wrong for me to wait some second coming, or no, second coming is already here with a collective of believers. That's all there is to it. I will not go, not to lose too much time, but I think, and I'm open to criticism here, I think that in this sense, why is this more radical than usual materialism? Because the usual materialism remains secretly theological in the sense that the vision it proposes is still what Einstein believed in, this kind of overall harmony or necessity. For example, for me, Stalin, his dialectical materialism was in its basic structure deeply theological. Stalin believed in a global order, historical necessity, which leads to communism, and he even all the time emphasizes, I'm just a servant of the people, I'm a servant of historical necessity, and so on. This is what we have to renounce. And to conclude, so that Dr. Much, you will like this, I loved it. Sometimes things happen in reality which give me, sorry for the vulgar expression, but truly an intellectual orgasm. The last time I got this was a governor, now, a couple of months ago, a governor of the province of Kaliningrad, you know, that small one between Poland and Lithuania, which is still, I don't know why, part of Russia. And Kaliningrad is ex-Königsberg. It's the place where Immanuel Kant, lived all his life. He said something which is true, but I'm totally opposed to it. But he said, we don't celebrate Kant here because Kant is the father of liberalism, socialism, and all these modern ideas of democracy, human rights, and so on. In some sense, he was right. Why? In a much more radical sense. You know, Kant is remembered as do your duty. Like no excuse not to doing your duty. No, Kant goes a step further. And that's human freedom at its most radical, intended by Christianity. It's not just do your duty. You are also responsible for what is your duty. Because if you read Hannah Arendt, you must remember what was Eichmann's basic defense, Adolf, that guy. His defense was, I was just doing my duty, listening to orders. No, Kant prohibits this. For Kant, your duty, you are responsible for it. I cannot tell to you or to you, sorry, I'm tasteless. Cut off your balls, it will hurt me terribly, but it's my duty. No, you can never use duty as an excuse to do your duty. This modern, sorry, I stop here. No. I need a master, to repeat, I already did it up my old joke. You know what you really need? That James Bond car from Goldfinger. You know, you have that red button. If you press the button, Please, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I'll ask them together for next time. I want to move on from religion to politics. Donald Trump won the American election. He won the popular vote last week. In 2016, you supported the idea of voting for Trump, and you argued that Clinton represented a fatal inertia, and you suggested that Trump winning the election would lead to some sort of socialist reaction, Do you support Trump winning? Do you welcome his comeback?
Crazy? Now I'm totally horrified and so on. My wager was, I know, a little bit risky, because one good argument that I heard years ago against myself is am I not repeating the mistake of communists in Germany in 1933, when they said it's better that Hitler won, now all these false intermediate positions fall away, it's us and the real enemy. In some sense they were right, and at the end Hitler lost, but I don't know how many millions were the price. So my point was that at that point, and I will define precisely that point, when Trump didn't yet have, okay, he had a vision, but he didn't yet have a detailed program of how to reform, change the whole texture of American life. At that point, it would be good to give him a chance so that people will see what he is. And I think I was not wrong indeed, because my idea was that nonetheless, American society was so rich in its texture, different groups, spontaneous, that you cannot simply reform it in this radical right-wing term if you have the president. Today, I was also, I think, right at another point. Look, what happened as a reaction to Trump, I claim, was that we got, they are weak, I know, but nonetheless, we got so-called democratic socialists, Bernie Sanders and so on, and I don't think they would be possible, and it was for the first time after long decades that an element of not marginal group but main politics refers to itself openly as socialists. And here, so it was this tension within the Democratic Party itself between the Clinton big bankers, corporations, and Bernie Sanders and others, the beautiful one, AOC, Alessandria, I think he is already part of the mainstream there. But what I want to say is that the fact that there was this other dimension is, for me, one image, and I hope we agree here, you will, that fascinated me as the absolute moment of truth. Do you remember Biden inauguration? All that black poet lady, she is establishment, pure bullshit and so on, blah, blah. But you remember the image. Biden sitting alone on stairs. Sorry? Bernie. Did I say Biden? My God. If you take power, 2 years of gulag for this mistake. Yeah. Bernie was sitting alone and just sitting there, and this was the image. He embodied what was fake about the Democratic Party. And they missed the lesson. We can go on into it. And many mistakes. First mistake was, and we should learn this from Trump, extremism. There is bad extremism, but there is good extremism in the sense that you openly say what you think. You are not too careful. Will I heard this? Will I heard that? Wasn't already Biden, but then Kamala even more, doing exactly this. I remember I was ashamed 1 month ago. She was asked by some black TV commentator, she was simply asked, you changed a whole series of your positions. 4 years ago, when you were against fracking, now you are for. Where do you stand? And her answer was, I always think we should look for consensus and solidarity among the people. And then the guy asked her, okay, but what does, you know, they should learn the lesson of Bernie, which was ingenious. Now that he's old, I will probably visit Birmingham and try to meet him there. Now he's a nice old guy, walks every day there. alone. No, where he said, no, don't focus on that old democratic fear, are we too much to the left, we will lose middle voters. No, our true target should be those disappointed white people, and not but just white, also many blacks and especially Latinos, who vote for Trump, and they are our potential voters. We should target them, and he proved this. He repeatedly won, he was for, I don't know how many times, the governor of, what's his state? Not Wyoming, my God. Vermont, yeah. But you know who were his voters? Precisely those who should have been Trump voters. Small farmers, all armed with guns, afraid, and so on. So there is, I will not go on, but you can just enumerate mistakes. So I think it's wrong. Those who think that Kamala lost because she was woman and black. No, modern global capitalist system is much more intelligent. You here got the lesson, conservatives, to cover up real everyday racism. Conservative Party today, the ideal leader is a black woman, of course. You have it now. You know, they simply, and there are, I will not bore you, but there are so many lessons that they didn't get. And it's not simply that they didn't get. They were told all the time, but this is the true force of ideology today. This I know very well, but even if you are told the truth, you ignore it. So let me conclude so that you will not again with, here again, Niels Bohr, you know it, I used it even here maybe. He proposed the best formula that I know of how ideology functions today. You must know the story. I read it in a biography of Niels Bohr. He had at the entrance to his country house a horseshoe. In our primitive Europe, this is a superstitious item. Allegedly, it prevents evil spirits to enter the house. And a scientist friend visited him and said, but aren't you a scientist? Do you believe in this bullshit? You know what Niels Bohr answered? Of course I'm a scientist. I don't believe it. Then friend asked, but why do you have it there? Bohr answered, because I was told that it works even if you don't believe in it. That's how liberals effectively function today. It's utter cynicism. They themselves do not really believe.
Thank you.
What they,
Thank
sorry.
You so much. I want to ask you what you think would be the impact of Trump winning on the global stage. What do you think will happen in Ukraine? What do you think is going to happen in the Middle East
here,
after he becomes president?
Very good question. In it, what I'm really afraid, that will be the paradox. It's a problematic position. Please attack me more. But what I don't fear so much that Trump will now do some crazy things, revolution, blah, blah. No, he already gives hints that he will act superficially, much more modestly. You know, he will try to enforce some peace in Ukraine by putting pressure on Ukraine, and here we can debate it, but I know all that Ukraine is doing wrong, corruption, Western capital. For example, do you know that 40% now of the best Ukrainian earth is the best in the world to grow plants and so on. 40% is already in Western hands. But nonetheless, I think that I don't agree with this standard leftist idea. Ukraine is leading a proxy for NATO, a proxy war against Russia. Sorry, first, this is so humiliating for Ukrainians. Do you think really they are so stupid to say, we could have lived in peace, but hey, why don't we lead a proxy war? No, they are desperate, they are afraid. The choice for them is not peace or war. It's war or disappearance. Trump is saying this all the time, explicitly. No, Trump, sorry, now I'm confused. Second, to put me in gulag for a second. Not, but Trump's friend, Putin is saying Ukrainians don't exist. And I don't understand how leftists have sympathies here for Putin when you don't remember this. I think I was earlier here, not last year. You know, when Putin started the aggression, he gave two speeches, 21st and 23rd of October, whatever. It was February or March, February, yeah. Do you know that you can find them on YouTube immediately? He mentions critically just one name, 2 times, Lenin. He said the proper name of Ukraine should be Ukraine of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. And then another time and so on. So I just don't get this, but let me return to. So Trump is intelligent enough. I think he will play this game because one thing is true. He didn't start any wars. He even eased the tensions with North Korea. But this is too optimistic. He gave an ambiguous hint even to Netanyahu that he should stop. So what I fear is that he will not do any direct horrible things, like new war, whatever, but that he will proceed in a much more cautious way. Just he learned this in his 4 years out of power. Taking over, filling with his people institutions, slowly, step by step. First, it's limitations to abortion. Then, now I read somewhere that in some states already, if you are not yet 18, 19, a woman, you have to have parents' permission to get the pills and so on, contraception pills, so that we will think, oh, but lives go on. Listen, where was all the fear? And step by step, all of a sudden, we will find ourselves in a different universe. Just so that I finish, what fears me, what is deepest in this fear is the following thing. I think the most dangerous split today is the split between our Western, but it's not just ours, struggle for gay rights, women's rights, and so on, and so-called third world anti-colonial struggle. The danger for which we are, to a large extent, even mostly in the West, responsible, is that in many so-called third world countries, to fight for LGBT, women's rights, gay rights, and so on, is considered to participate in the cultural strategy of Western imperialism. For example, my despair is here a year ago or when, you know that the parliament in Uganda voted for the harshest laws against homosexuality. If you are caught in a gay act, it can be death or at least lifelong imprisonment. And you know what was the reasoning? I checked Uganda Times in English. It's that the Speaker of the Parliament who proposed this law put it very clearly. If you are for gay rights, you are for the neo-colonialist West. This is what I find so terribly depressing. That's why I don't trust BRICS. The formula of BRICS is, for me, we are together against Western imperialism, but what you do to your people, it doesn't concern me, and so on. For example, Putin, 3 or 4 weeks ago, said officially, Taliban are not a terrorist organization, they are our important allies in the struggle against Western terror. He said this at the very point when there is now in Afghanistan a new law which prohibits women not only to address the public, but even privately on the street to women to talk among themselves, because a man might overhear it and woman's voice is as such seductive and so on. Am I now imposing Western agenda? No. I think that in the same way, you should never forget this, that Israel, you need this war a proof. Do you remember what happened in Israel till the war, literally? The biggest demonstrations, public demonstrations against the way Netanyahu wanted to control Supreme Court and so on. This was forgotten. It was the same in Iran. Don't you remember that Mahsa Azini, a Kurdish young woman, was killed by the police? It exploded. It wasn't just feminism. It was feminism at its best. Feminism which mobilized the majority of population, also the men. This is my dream, to somehow overcome this gap between what we in the West perceive as our LGBT and so on fights, I fully support them, and anti-colonialism. Although verbally we all agree here, but here we have a very dangerous gap. I wouldn't like to live in a society where to be for gay rights means you are imperialist.
I want to move on from the American election. Before I do that, I want to ask you what you think are the factors that led to Trump winning again. He's a misogynist, a liar, racist, but he seems to be continuing to have a lot of appeal. He's now winning the popular vote. What are, if you could give 3 reasons why he won the election?
Did you see that disgusting movie by Robert Altman, wonderful, when a guy wants to leave his wife, Nashville, and then he thinks, 3 reasons why the kids. So you're asking me now to think 3 reasons why. Okay, the main one is this. I looked at the numbers, maybe I'm wrong, different, but it's not that Trump won, it's that the Democrats lost. Trump got the same number of votes as he did when he was defeated by Biden. But Democrats lost some 12, 13 million of votes. It's simply that. Then another thing, which maybe I emphasize too much, economy is more complex, I won't go into that. But another thing is we still underestimate, I will say something horrible, the not moral corruption, but the depravity of many ordinary people. Depravity, by ordinary, I don't mean poor people. Intellectuals are, on average, worse. In the sense that, you know how much we enjoy hearing dirty things, stupidities, and so on. Let me give you, I will not talk too long, I always talk too long, yeah. An example, I thought I am a crazy sadist here, but I asked my friends, you know, I read part 2 is shit. I read first part of Handmaid's Tale, and then the TV series. Okay, why was it relatively so popular? I have a crazy theory. We men, and also some women, you enjoy these new descriptions, how they humiliate women, you know. They shouldn't read, they shouldn't. But since it's depicted as horror, you can say, okay, of course, I'm horrified and so on, but you secretly enjoy it. And I think it's something of the same with Trump. What so-called liberals didn't get is that the very features that they think will ruin Trump, for example, when he is caught lying, improvising, and so on, idiots, don't they see? This helps him. Trump has this paradoxical situation that the more he is vulgar, the more he is lying, and so on, the more people identify with him. They simply measure him, that's the tragedy, by different standards. If Kamala is caught lying, she is simply lying. If Trump is caught lying, he is at least sincere, he speaks openly like one of us, and so on and so on. So let me conclude now really with something horrible. You know, we will have to think literally about some form of limitation of our, not democracy as such, of our type of democracy, Western liberal multi-party democracy. In France, there was a real possibility that Marine Le Pen will come to power. And I think, maybe some of you know my text, I've written about it, that Macron, I almost admire him now, was a genius. But you know how he do it? By de facto almost suspending democracy. When de Gaulle established the Fifth Republic in 1961-2, he was afraid of instability, so he included in the Constitution some article which says that the President of the Republic nominates the government and then proposes to the Assemblée Nationale, to the People's Assembly, to confirm or reject the government. But it's nowhere specified for how long a time. Does he have to wait? It's not specified. So now he changed the government. There was no vote in the parliament about the government. It was pure manipulation, de facto. And you know what was the result? If Macron were not to do this, there would probably economic crisis, chaos, and so on. Now, somehow, people accepted it, life goes on. I'm not, of course not, for Chinese version of soft fascism or whatever, but it's obvious that in view of the crisis that we are approaching now, a much stronger global cooperation and long-term political thinking will be necessary. I met a high-ranking, we are not friends, a Chinese guy who, it was cynical what he told me, but he was right. He said, you see, the problem with you in the West is that you think in the terms how we will survive if you are the ruling party next 2 years or 4 years. And he told me cynically, you know, in China, we don't have this problem. We know. That's why we think about what will happen in 2050 and so on. If we, I don't know how, but liberal democracy, the way we have it now, is not strong enough, efficient enough to cope with the problem we are confronting.
Thank you very much, Slavoj. We will now move on to audience questions.
Were you a good Stalinist? Did you distribute the questions before? Or you are a filthy liberal who really allows people? Sorry, talk too much.